So the meetup will be in English because there is a lot of non-French people here. So hello everyone. First of all, it's not the right slide. Voila. How many of you know Algolia? If you can raise your hand. Okay, so I will explain you a little bit what is Algolia for those that don't know Algolia. So we're a search REST API. So it means that you, as a user, you send us your data in JSON, and we will allow you to search in those data in a really fast and smart way. So this is the core of Algolia. And then around that, we built a lot of extensions, plugins, and we support, we have APIs for the most mainstream language, PHP, Ruby, JavaScript, and WordPress and Magento extensions and whatever. So yeah, so that's Algolia. This product allows us to build a super UX focused search experience like this. We take in consideration typo tolerance, synonyms, the plurals, and we have the custom ranking that you can tweak yourself. So it's really a powerful product. So yeah, that's it. If you're interested, go to algolia.com and you'll have more information. And so I will leave you between the hands of Sebastian for the first talk. And enjoy the meetup.
So, hi everybody. As Luca told you, I'm Sebastian. I'm working in Algolia as a creative designer. I'm mostly focusing on the brand. We recently created new logo, a new website. So that's what I do here. Today, I wanted to speak to you about branding, and I was, looking for inspiration on the web, browsing Behance, Dribbble, 99U, even from up north, and finally I found the real inspiration on Facebook. That's crazy what you can see on Facebook. So that's this kind of quote that you read with this voice in your head. Happiness is a journey, it's not a destination. And I was like, yeah, they're true. Because you have to know that before joining Algolia, I was a freelancer, or I even worked in advertising agencies. And I was used to create branding design. We gathered with lots of designers, and 6 weeks after that, we released a logo, guidelines, and ship it to the client, and they did whatever they want with that. But if you do that, you realize that 6 months or 1 year after, the branding you've created it's far, far, far from what you've created, and they usually do strange stuff with your logo, strange stuff with your guideline, and it doesn't go where you want to go. So that's why today I'd like to say that branding is a journey. First, we'll have to know what is exactly branding. So most of you would say branding is a logo. Yeah, but logo is not enough. If branding is a story, is a book, logo is only the cover. It's just the beginning of the story. You don't have to say everything in the logo. The branding says everything, but the logo, no, it's just a mark that you place here and there to recognize your brand. Some of you will say, maybe it's guideline then, a set of rules, only use 2 fonts, 5 colors, these kind of things. Yeah, that's not enough. In fact, branding is more like a concept. It's a global imaginarium. It's something that you guess, something that you feel. For example, if I show you this, you just see a logo, but you already have in mind a guy with a brown shirt in a brown truck delivering a brown package, and you're happy because he's on time, he's polite, he's so skilled, so smart. That's what branding is. So we can say that branding is a journey for ideas. When you see a logo, your ideas immediately start a journey. They go somewhere. They imagine things. When you create a branding, first there is the birth of the brand. And the birth always starts with a glyph. What is a glyph? For example, if I show you this, you'll tell me that it's a, what is that? It's a square, yeah. And this? Oh yeah, hesitation on this one. Okay, I know it's. And this one? Triangle. Okay, awesome designers, man. All right, let's go. Okay, okay, cool. That's simple. Yeah, you immediately recognize that shape. You know that shape. If we go a bit further, what is that glyph? That glyph, the R, it's a letter. In fact, it's only half a circle, two stroke, but it means something. You immediately have a sound in mind when you see this. You have a word beginning with that letters in mind. In fact, the glyph represents more than itself. It's just a simple stroke, but there is more behind the glyph. That's exactly what a logo is. If I show you this, you don't see an apple. No, you see an iPad, you see an iMac. You see black, white, gray, chrome. Oh, beautiful computer. I love my designer computer. That's what you see when you watch this. And this, a simple stroke. This stroke even has a name. It's the swoosh. Only this implies dynamism, implies momentum, implies a lot of things. You have well-known stars of the sports of the 80s. You have really nice sneakers. You have a lot of things, and it's only a stroke. So that's something we tried to apply in Algolia, as I also showing you stuff behind the scene. We started with this shape. This shape is in fact an abstract representation of a search bar. As Luca told you, in Algolia, we are doing search. But we are adapting our search to every website implementing Algolia. So that's why it is rounding on one side and squared on the other side. We tried to use that glyph as a base for our main pattern that we call aerial pattern, and it implies speed, it implies relevance, it goes in, it has its momentum. So when you see this, especially Nike and Apple, you realize that branding is also a journey for companies. It's a journey because from a simple sneaker brand that was nowhere in its beginning, this only stroke made it an iconic brand, something huge, something incredible. After the birth, after this glyph, this little logo, you have to go further. You create the guidelines, and the guidelines provide you with what we call consistency. Consistency is really important. Consistency is important because if you have consistency, you have repetition. You have to find again and again the same pattern, the same colors. If you have repetition, you have familiarity. You know this pattern. You already saw it. You know that. And if you have familiarity, you have trust because you always trust something you know. So consistency implies trust. That's why consistency is really important in a brand. And also, please notice that a brand doesn't exist without consistency. You have to find the same logo everywhere. You have to find the same colors everywhere. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of stuff. It's le Musée du Louvre. It's not a brand. A brand is something that has a direction, that has a voice. But what is exactly consistency? Consistency is a weird concept. It's kind of a box. It's a mental box in which you put things that look alike, but that aren't exactly the same. For example, if I take again my example of the R, all of these are R letters. But if you look closer at this, none of them look alike. You have end lettering, you have sans serif, you have serif, you have everything, lowercase, uppercase. But in your mind, they are all R's. That's what consistency is. Airbnb, for example, when they released their new logo, they call it the Bello, by the way. They even created a website on which you can customize the colors, the shapes, and people could play around with the logo. And it was a bit different each time, but in the end, you have something consistent. In Algolia, we tried to go two ways with consistency. First, for the blog, we have to make blog post illustrations to go with each article. And even if they are all different illustrations, they have something in common. They feel consistent, and the consistency is by the colors, as you can see on the right. Lots of this dark purple, a bit of blue, a bit less of pink, and sometimes orange. And that creates consistency, even if the shapes and the topics are really different. We also created consistency by the shape. So the aerial pattern that you've seen before, you have it here in every colors as a background to fit each time. For example, GS, they have a yellow logo, so we wanted our aerial pattern to fit that yellow logo. And we have consistency through the different pages of our website by this pattern. So consistency is important in the end because you want that your consumer, your user, has a unique relationship with your brand. From the first time he saw you, he discovered you on an ad on Facebook or in the street or in an article, from the time he goes on your website to the moment he will pay and use your app, you want your customer to feel at home, to know that he is in a relationship with only one brand. So that's why we can also say that branding is a journey for users. And finally, when you have this, when you have the consistency, when you have a brand, a product, and you're growing, what you want is to come from branding to trending. And that's the most difficult part. A branding lives like this. 3 steps, 3 main steps. First, your brand is a child. You know, a child is walking like this, a bit like a drunk man, not knowing really where it goes. It listens a lot to the parents. It's not really himself. The brand is like this in the beginning. It only is what its parents want it to be. It only goes where you try to go, and it's really clunky. In Algolia, we decided to reach this it was a child brand, and we wanted to make more a real brand out of it. We were asked in the beginning to redesign the website. And you know, when you design a website, you start with the header. You put the logo in the header. And we were trying stuff, and it was wrong. You know, with the logo, it's really difficult to make something if the base isn't strong. It's like a house. So we decided to reshape a bit this logo. We came from here to here. As you can see, there is not much real difference. We kept the same identity, but we made it a bit more balanced. We tried to correct every defect we had in the logo, trying to have something more geometrical. We also changed the color to have something a bit more punchy, more present. And we consider now that we are an adolescent teenage brand. A teenager it's a bit different than a child. When you're a teenager, you don't listen anymore to your parents, you experiment stuff, you smoke spliffs, you are going to concert, you listen to rock, rap, anything that your parents aren't listening. You try stuff, you identify to a group of people. That's kind of what we tried to do with Algolia. Lots of people criticized our new website because it looks like Stripe. And that's true. But it's totally something we are pleased with that. Today, people start to say, oh, Algolia is the Stripe of search. Whew, fine. You know the size of a Stripe? We are compared to them. Surfing on the same trend is definitely okay with us. But we know that we are an adolescent brand, that we have to make things evolve and find our own identity. Because when you become adult, here is the time where you know who you are, where you know where you go. That's an adult brand. And becoming an adult brand is something really, really complicated. Becoming a trend requires 2 things. First, lots of efforts, talents, because people won't follow a trend that is not that good. Plus, it requires visibility. If you don't have any visibility, it's nothing. If you do something great, but you're on your own, it's not a trend. It's something great on your own. And for example, adult brand like this one. Do you recognize it? What? Google. 4 circles, 4 colors, and you recognize the brand. That's what an adult brand is. This is crazy. They went into our mind. It was maybe funny in the beginning. I show you a circle asking you what this glyph is, and you told me a circle. I show you 4 circles, and you tell me it's Google. They made less, they express more. They evolved a lot. They came from this word art thing to this. And each time they evolve, there is less and less details in their logo. That's really cool. And now that there are less things in their logo, they can really afford to make things like that. 5 children in a swimming pool. Ah, but it's Google, huh? Of course. Tuba is the hell. So yeah, that's really cool. When you're at this step, you can play around the logo. You don't have to have strict guidelines. No, you can play because everybody has your brand in mind. You can really play, test, experiment things, and then you grow as a designer with your brand when you're at that step. So that's why we can say that branding is also a journey for designers. So in the end, if I had to sum up, I would say that there are 3 main steps in the life of a brand. The birth, with the first glyph, the growth, with the guideline, and the expansion, becoming a trend, something a bit more blurry. The glyph, the consistency, the trend. So keep that in mind. Next time that you'll be asked to create a brand or to make a rebranding by a client, by your company you work in, remember that. Tell them, that's okay. We'll bring the design wherever you want to go. But remember that it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey. Thank you. If you have any question or something you want to add, please feel free. I'll be pleased to. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're all good. Great. So, hi everyone. Thank you for being here today at this second Parisian Dribbble meetup. My name is Nicolas Meuzard, and I'm here to give you a quick introduction to what can be an atomic design. I'm currently a product designer at VLNV, which is a company, a digital studio, which is specialized on user experience and mainly on user experience. So let's jump straight into the subject. What is atomic design? So the main difference is instead of designing screens after screens, you have to consider designing a whole bunch of components that will be reusable during your entire project development. And it's a good thing that Sébastien told us about the consistency, because atomic design and design system in general are mainly about this. So it means that you're going to have to design something by following a very specific architecture and hierarchy in your document. So let's have a closer look to this. So at the very foundation of everything, you have these so-called atoms, which will be the smallest pieces of UI you can have in your interface. There are mainly things that cannot be divided or cannot be broken down any further without stopping to be functional. This is the main idea about atoms. And because on your source files you make them dynamic, it allows you to create some molecules after that by gathering some atoms and create other units of functionality. For example, atoms can be some very basic HTML elements like buttons, like inputs, labels, colors, textiles. And if you want to create some other units of sense of functionalities like molecules, you can gather them to create, for example, if you need to create a search bar, you will have to gather 1 atoms for an input and 1 atoms for a CTA, for buttons. And this will allow you to create a molecule of the search bar. But because everything is dynamic and because you have this strong component at the foundation of your UI, everything will be related and the consistency will be very, very sure, because these atoms that you use at the beginning were the same to create these molecules. Then from these molecules, you can gather them to create some much more bigger section on your pages, which could be organism. And then with this organism, which mainly will look like to section on your pages, you can create templates. Templates is almost like a final result of your design of your screens, but you won't have any real data in it, because the main goals of templates is to keep focusing on your content structure. And this is mainly the goal of having this such hierarchy in your component. So as a case today, I've worked recently, actually my last mission was to redesign the entire Pizza Hut website for Belgium. So with such a number of screens and such a number of different layouts and UI to create, I tried to put a design system to be sure that everything will look like the same and having this so-called consistency across the entire design. So to start, I always start to designing few screens to be sure that everything that I'm designing is actually working for this project and not just designing some atoms, then molecules, but out of this context. I need to be sure that this is work, and this is why I always start with few screens. So if we try to split a bit these pages, we can have some atoms, like I told you before. And this is mainly what will help me create the entire other screens for this project, because I have my foundation for this. So based on these atoms, I can create some molecules, for instance. So from inputs and buttons, I can finally create some functionalities and features across the design. This is mainly what will look like to the final results. From these molecules, I can finally create some organism to finally make sense in this project. And because I create all of this from previously molecules and from previously atoms, I'm sure that my entire structure from my source file is absolutely dynamic. So basically, that's why I use to get to this final result. And once you get to this atoms level, you will have everything you need. It's a bit like a Lego games. Once you've got every pieces you need, you can gather them to create everything you need. So it means other molecules, it means other organisms, it means other screens. And because everything is the same at the beginning, you will be sure that your consistency will be respected. So this is mainly the goal of having a design system. Today, the regular habit is to create your design system in your sketch file. And then we try to find tools to synchronize it with actual real code. Because once you've done a little changes in your design, this needs to be implemented, this needs to be developed. And today, like we use Zeppelin as tools to give some CSS from atoms, from molecules, from everything to our developers, we can now have something really more synchronized and really more dynamic in your structure. It's been few weeks now that UXPin just released his latest tools about design system. But this is mainly what Craft from InVision is doing today. It means that you have a whole library of components that you can grab and gather, a bit like, exactly like a design atomic structure. And recently we have some tools like Fragments fragments, sorry, that design, that will be launched by the end of the year. And this is a Parisian startup, which will allow us to synchronize deeply our design files with real output code. So it means that once you've synchronized your sketch file with it, you do a little changes, and when the developer get back to work, this is synchronized with GitHub. So you have every version you need accessible, and you can be sure that even if you did the changes in your design, this will be applied to the real developed project. And this, this is the holy grail. I know I've been a bit quick fast on presenting the atomic design hierarchy and structure, but I'm quite sorry, this is my first talk, so I didn't know that was that fast. But if you have any more questions, feel free to ask me. And this is the Holy Bible, and if you need answer about this, or if you want to find how to set up a real design system for your project, you will find every answer in this. So that's it for me. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey,
Hey.
I'm Maxime. I'm not a designer. I'm a developer, and I had a question about the atomic design.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, like you said at the beginning of your talk, it was more complicated to create only atoms, and started with a big page.
Yeah.
Is it? Are you getting more productive to create new design using the atomic design system, or by doing like having a piece of paper and trying to do your scheme and do the full page? What is the more productive in a way to work for you? Maybe it's more, maybe it depends on the size of the project. I don't know.
Of course, at the beginning, if you want to build an atomic design or a design system in general, for me, this needs to be a project on which we'll have a very high scalability. We'll need a lot more pages. If you're doing just a home page, of course, it doesn't need a design system. But at the beginning, yeah, you need to make some screens to be sure that everything is working for your project. So this is a very slow phase of your project, because you have to design these screens and then to split every screen to extract every pieces of organisms and of molecules and of atoms. And this is a very long stage to accomplish before having the chance to apply everything you gather to create more screens. After that, it will be very quick to design new screens, because you have everything you need. But yeah, at the beginning, this is very slow. I don't know if it's a sort of question.
It's quite the same that we do in development.
Yeah.
We first do the first project, first block, and then we split it into multiple files or multiple modules that we can reuse in our full application. But it only works for very big or medium-sized applications. So I think it's quite the same as a design and development.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Yeah.
So I had a discussion in my company about components library and design system too.
Oh.
And I read a lot of articles that say that currently style guides are a sort of subset of a design system. And actually, I think that style guide is something that is going to die in a more complex interface, like a bigger project, as you mentioned. No, so can you explain, please, the definition of a design system, and what is at the end why the style guide today is useful, and if it's useful, if you find it useful to share with your team?
Actually, for me, the big problem of Style Guide today is that you need to complete your entire project before getting to design your Style Guide and describe everything. But with Atomic Design and design system in general, you create your Style Guide as you are designing along the road. So you win a lot of time by doing this, and in a much more large way, if you have to communicate with your brand, even if it's not designers, you can grab some stuff from this Style Guide and make it accessible to everyone. So it's another way to design a Style Guide and describe everything. But yeah, you don't lose that much time in the end like we are today doing. For me. I don't know if it answers your question, but that's the least I can say.
Yeah, because my problem was that when other stakeholders want to sniff into the state of the art of the project, they always think that let's have a look at the style guide. But currently the style guide is not the good asset, is not good support to show to the stakeholder or someone else to introduce to the product. I think the design system is something more complete that is evolving and iterating. So something that
and at least you have always a style guide update and keep updated. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we have a question over there. Over there.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. It was very great, really. And I have a question. It's not about the way you work it, but with the software you work with. I didn't hear anything about Photoshop. So,
yeah.
Why did you skip Photoshop? I only saw two software that they are great too, but you have even XD experience from the same house, and you have other that are very cool too, but not Photoshop. Why? I'm a designer, that's why.
It's been a while. I didn't use the Adobe, but I'm pretty sure this is still possible in Photoshop. Yeah, you know, with dynamic objects, you can try to look like a design system, but this is not made for. Yeah.
That's why I do work like this. I didn't know that has a name, Adobe Design. Right now I know, but I always work with Photoshop.
Yeah. So. Actually, I never. I never tried to put a design system in place with Photoshop, but yeah, Sketch is very made for with that kind of symbol hierarchy. Sorry. Anyone for the box?
Thanks. To answer your question, I think that atomic design is more a concept of a way of working. Either you use Photoshop and you use dynamic layers, either you use Sketch and you use symbols. It's the same. What matters is that you use basic elements that you try to assemble, and when you have lots of these elements, you create your own design. You can do it in Photoshop. Maybe it's a bit not as good as Sketch, because in Sketch, for example, you can design buttons and then change the text inside, something that I'm not sure we can do with Photoshop. So yeah, but Photoshop is great, but not for UI.
You won't have that depth in your architecture and in your hierarchy. That's maybe you can try, but I won't. Any other questions? Oh, over there.
Can you explain a little bit more about your workflow, like the part of synchronization? Yeah, that's the developer part. I think it's really complicated.
I never had the chance to put it fully a design system and to interact it with developers about it. But today, the workflow that we have is that we start designing our stuff in Sketch or in Photoshop or whatever, and then we synchronize it with tools like Zeppelin or Avocode or Inspect from InVision. So it helps developers to get the associated code to each element, to each atom, to each molecule, to each organism. But in the end, this is not very dynamic. And what I would like to see today, and this is coming to life, is that we don't need anymore to have a code associated to each component in the way that developers needs to get it, integrate it in their code, and then make it work for the whole project. I'm personally looking for something that is, how can I say that? That is fully integrated in the developer's workflow as our designer workflow as well.
There is a plugin from Sketch that is called Sketch app, something like this, which directly creates components as you design and create React.js code as you design.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Actually, a part of my talk was supposed to be about React because the structure of this language is so well made for atomic design.
The only problem of this plugin is that actually designers are not coders.
Yeah.
That means that we need to open the dialog or command code right as coders, and it's not easy to learn from.
Yeah. We need a translator in between the two parts. Yeah. But yeah, React.js is very powerful for atomic design and design system in general because it's the same structure with components and reusable components. So yeah. Anyone else? Great. I think we've done.
Okay. Thanks for having me. It was a bit last minute because we just set this up this afternoon. So I'm sorry for the UI. It's not really perfect. It's just a mashup of different slides. And I'm not even going to talk about UI or UX, but more like the environment we felt we needed to do a good design at La Ruche. So first, I'm going to present myself. So I'm François Chet. I'm Chief Product Officer now at La Ruche, but when I started 6 years ago, I was the only designer. So I was doing the branding, the UI, the UX, and everything. And then I built the design team. And then when I was asked to manage the product managers team, I said, yes, of course. So this way, everything is going to be perfect for the designers and they will have all they need. It's not that easy, as I discovered later. But it's still the spirit I try to keep. Like think like a designer, even if I'm working more on the organizational side, and see what are the problems and how we can solve them instead of saying, oh, they did that, then we should do it, or any other way of thinking. So that's it. And now I'm going to talk about La Ruche Kidiwi. I don't know if you know what we're doing. A bit? Yes, cool. I'm still going to explain anyway. So La Ruche Kidiwi, or the food assembly in England, what is it? It's connecting producers, local producers with consumers. And how we do it through local communities. So anyone can set up a ruche. Anyone who wants to have good produce close from their home. So they will go on the website, say, I want to set up a ruche. And then they're going to contact local producers. They can do it on the platform, or they can go in the field and recruit new producers. They're going to talk about it to their friends, to their neighbors, to the friends of their friends. And they're going to gather a local community who's going to order every week on the website. The producer says, this week I have potatoes, I have beers, meat. You can find pretty much anything. And you know it's a good produce at all time. And once a week, everyone gathers. The producers bring the products, and the members come to fetch them. And we see these kind of things happening everywhere in France and now in Europe, since we are in 8 countries. And I have my orders that I fetched earlier today, where I have a flan, cherries and potatoes, lots of good products. And so we have 1,100 rushes in Europe now, so we could think everything is going great, but actually, no, it's not that easy. In summer 2016, well, we grew the team very fast. It doubled in 6 months, and we started to see a lot of growing pains, and we were using lots of this kind of documents, which are really a bit hard to understand and not very fun. And you can see you try to fit everything, but it never fits. And nobody was clear on what was the mission. We had product owners, product managers. Some were feeling useless. The designers, they were switching from teams to teams. We had 2 development teams, but only 1 design team. So everyone was always switching who they were working with. And the CEO was trying to oversee everything, which was just no longer possible. So we felt we had to change things. We tried a lot of different things, like how we could rank to prioritize the project. But in the end, the real problem was the members of the teams. They didn't know why they were doing what they were supposed to do. So we decided to go with the Spotify model, with the squads. I don't know if you've heard about it. So the idea is to have 1 team with all the good skills, like 1 designer, 1 product managers, and developers. But the first step before that was really thinking what were going to be the teams, because we can say we are going to have teams, but if they don't have a purpose, then you pretty much miss the point. So we said to think about what we want to do. Our mission which is empowering people to build a fair food system. And the way we want to build it is really think about the producers. And for that, we have to make it profitable for them to get involved in La Ruche. And we have 2 levers for that. We have to decrease their costs and increase their revenues once they are in our network. So the first one, decrease their cost, is really about logistics and optimize the supply chain when you are in a short, I always forgot how to say it, when you are trying to have short circuits, which is not the real world. Then it gets really expensive for the producers. It's up to 40% of their cost. So we try to work on tools to help them mutualize their trucks so that it gets cheaper for them. So we have 1 team called Logistic and how to improve short distribution channels efficiency. So that's a word. And so every team we have, they have a mission, a sub-mission or a big mission, and they are going to work on KPIs. Their specific KPIs is GMV per kilometer, so how much a producer is going to win per kilometer he does. So if he's on his own, it's around €5 per kilometer. So if he does 1 kilometer, he's going to earn €5. If he works with producers close to him, then it's €30. So it's much more interesting for him. And on the other side, how to increase the revenue? We thought about the customer path, and for there are 3 big steps. The first one is hear about La Ruche and join one. So it's really about community and word of mouth. The second one is he has joined the Ruche and is going to place a first order. So it's more like activation. And the third one is satisfied by his experience. We have a dedicated objective, grow the user base, increase transformation and basket size, and increase satisfaction and return rate. So each team has a dedicated mission, as I was saying. Community, how to attract, welcome, and engage members in our communities. Commerce, how to drive sales within the Ruche. And quality, how to help hosts and producers deliver a better experience to the members. And for each team, you can see we have 1 product managers, one UX UI, 1 or 2 front dev, 1 or 2 backend dev, and 1 data scientist. So these are our 4 teams and how they are linked to each other. And this is all the people who are involved in this. Still looking for 1 designer, just in case. And these are all the support teams working on infrastructure, UX research, customer happiness. So we have 1 big product team at La Ruche. We have come to this after several years, and everyone is working on the experience, and everyone involved in the customer experience. is part of the product team. So what does it change and how we work within this organization? I took one simple example with the commerce suite. So they're working on the transformation rate, which is the funnel. And you can see the first bar, I removed the numbers. The first bar is how many people see the order page. And the second bar is how many people add a product to their basket. So we can see a big drop here. People are coming to the page, but they don't add anything to their basket. So they thought, okay, there's a problem here, and they are the only one in charge of that. It means the product managers, the designers are going to look at this and they decide what they want to do. So then they went on the field to a collection where they set a small workshop where people could try, and they were filming everything. So they were doing this user test with Lionel, with 80 something. And this is her when she doesn't understand what she has to do and is not happy with the UI. So she was getting lost because we have lots of links. It's quite complicated. You have a nav on the left, a nav on the top, then you have the categories, so lots of ways to get lost. So the team decided to try one simple thing. They removed the navigation on the left, and then they deployed it to a given number of fishes, and they followed it with tools we made. And it lasted for 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And in the end, did it work? Bingo! Yes, we saw an increase in the average basket. It was we gained €2 per basket, so it was quite a good test. And it's good because it was the first one we were doing, so good encouragement for what was following. And this is something we couldn't have done 1 year and a half ago, or even 1 year ago, because we had this project coming from the top, and the team didn't feel they could try anything. So thanks to this organization, now everyone is going to see the consumers, to see what's working and what's not working, and really focus on the problems that the users have, and not only on what we think we should do. So that's a big win for us, but everything didn't went that well. So what went wrong when doing that? It's not for everyone. Some people like to be told what to do. So we saw some people left when we changed the organization because they just didn't like the freedom we were giving. Good to know. Second one is stuff on management. We had managers for the design team, for the tech teams, but once you change the organization, then it's the team who is deciding what they're going to do. So sometimes the managers, they don't know what they should be doing. They should focus on happiness and stuff like that. So it's possible to have management, and it's useful to give the vision also, but it's, once again, not for everyone. It can create fear and uncertainty, sorry. When we were thinking about like the perimeters and the missions, we thought it was a good idea, but people, they were not sure if they could, if they would be able to do it, if they would be if they would really have enough freedom to try things. So for 3-4 months, people were still a bit uncertain and a bit fearful. Fourth one, it takes some time because even if you tell to someone, okay, now you are the master, you can choose what you're going to do. It takes time to build the knowledge and to be able to know what's good and what's not, to feel and know the customers. So it takes 3-4 months before really the team is able to know what they are doing. And there's still some disappointment. There's still some people who would like more freedom because what it's not doing, we're not saying everybody can do whatever they want. That's not the thing. We're creating like a space where people can create and they can feel they can propose things. But we still have a vision, we still have bigger missions, and so it's a mix between both. But what went well? Focusing on problematics and perimeters instead of saying, okay, you are going to work on the sale page only, and you are going to work maybe on the admin side. We had lots of discussion about it, or maybe on the different type of users. But when we chose that, we thought that everybody would be able to learn from the others, and that's what we are seeing happening this quarter. It took us 6 months before seeing it, but now we are doing the roadmap for the third quarters, and we see one team is building on top of something the other built because now it's useful for their mission. So that's really good. They feel more empowered. They are no longer scared of proposing things. They know they can do it. We have examples where they show they had better ideas than the management, so it's good. We deliver a lot more, so that's a good side effect also. People feel more involved in the mission. So we haven't measured it, but at least twice as fast, I think. It's really important to have the right tools. It took us some time also to have the good A/B test tools. And this way you can show like you're doing good work. It's not just, okay, this is good or this is bad. You can show the impact and say, okay, we have this idea, we tested it, and it's good. So now we can just deliver it and everybody is fine in the company with that. If it's good, then you can ship it, no problem. And that's the last side effect, more confidence from the top management. So everybody feels as a better place in the company, and product managers now they are respected also by the other business units. And people are asking them lots of things, and they have a good place, I think, in the company right now. So that's it. I'm really hot.
Thanks for your talk. I have a question about maybe company culture. How do you create a company culture that can be shared across teams?
Tough question. I think there's lots of things to do, and if a little thing goes wrong, then a lot goes wrong. So it's never something done. Since the beginning, we have like I was going to say a cult, but it's not really a cult or anything. It's more like we eat together every day. We cook together, so we go to fetch the product. But I think the most important thing is really going to the collection and meeting the producers, because they really have a different life from us. They are up at 5 in the morning and until 10 in the evening, so it's really different. And when you know who you are working for, then everybody really know why they are at LaRouche, and that's the biggest link, I think.
Hi, thank you for your talk. I have kind of the same issues now in my startup. As I understand, like you are in squad, like in Spotify, but does the design team making the design in the same time that the developers are integrating, or you have like a sprint in advance for designers to do design research and try and test and learn some design process or things? Or are you integrated? Are you integrating the design and the integration for developers in the same sprint?
So we are not working in sprints really.
Okay.
It's more or less like every week. It's more, we set goals for every week. So each team is going, okay, next week we should be able to do that on the prototype, or we should know this, or we should have finished this prototype. But everybody is working at the same time on the same thing, and everybody knows what the others are doing. That's also one of advantage with small teams. So we don't have a dedicated like design sprint, and then it goes to the developers. More like, okay, we have one prototype, we go in the field, we test it, but while we are waiting for the results, then the developers is starting to develop it, and then once we are pretty sure with the global idea, and we really need to get deep in the use cases, then we already have like a working prototype. So we know the global idea is good because we tested it with InVision. And once you need to like test catalogs or things like that, where producers need their really the real data, because if you are a fisher or if you are a grower or a meat butcher, then you don't have the same needs. And we can't prototype like 10 totally different things. It would be really too hard. So it's more like we keep prototyping, and the more we move further, the more detailed it is, and the more real it is. And then when we launch it, we don't have any more surprise. We used to, but now it's better.
Okay, and the last question, what tools do you use? You were talking about tools.
Yeah,
Find the right tools.
Sketch.
Only Sketch for even to share with your team, like the roadmap?
Sketch and Vision, nothing really fancy.
You don't have like Trello or this kind of other
no,
tools too?
I could talk hours about that, but we use Asana.
Okay.
Mostly, but also, yeah, I stick to that for now. No, we did everything on by ourselves because we have different communities, and we couldn't use any A/B test SaaS tool.
And so, do you make also a lot of user research or user tests?
Yeah, we have a dedicated team to that.
Okay.
So there are two, and they're working on some subjects in advance. And once we start prototyping, then everyone has to go on the field. So the designers and product managers mostly. But if the developers wants to go, then it's good. And we try to have like every week test.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
One more question. So you said you have one product designer per squad or per squid. So they each have like a goal and some problems to solve, and they can be focused on that. But do they have time? Each product designer, do they have time to talk about like more general design issues? And we mentioned the design system before. It's a common theme among several squads. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, I forgot to talk about it in the what went not so well. We used to have a really good, it was really easy to share within the design team because everyone was at the same table. It's not the case anymore. So the way we try to avoid a gap between the different things that are being done, we have two times, two moments in the week when they can share. There's one where they're really more discussing about the global project and what they're doing, and they're talking about the design system at this moment. And then once the second time is really about critique. So they show one interface, they explain what they're trying to do, and then it's people ask questions. Well, it's not like basic framework for that. So we try to have two times where they're really more only between designers, and they can talk about that. And it's the same in every team. Like the developers have
per week, you mean?
Yeah, per week. Thank you.